I set out on this little journey for me, and I promised myself that I'd show the reality of dealing with clinical anxiety and depression, suicidal tendencies, recovering, and everything in between, because I think that I needed that wake-up call just as much as every person who needed to understand me needed that wake-up call. Even seeing the worst of it. So here it is. For me, my ultimate breaking point wasn't trying to kill myself or even having a mental breakdown. All of those just led up to it. For me, my breaking point was the day I didn't see a point in attempting suicide anymore, or trying, because I was scared to death of dying and spending an eternity as miserable as I am right now. And why would I want to rush to that? Because then on top of hurting those who love me even more than I am now, I'd still be miserable. And none of us would be better off. My breaking point was realizing I would never not be in recovery. I would always be prepping for that next low and then digging myself out of it. I would always have to be extra cautious because addictions are easier for me to find and latch on to, and not all addictions rely on drugs and alcohol. And my breaking point was realizing that I'm not going to be able to focus on me, recover, find me, get better, or do anything without hurting somebody. Because regardless of how hard I try, life just doesn't work that way. We aren't a puzzle that fits perfectly together. As human beings, that's not how it works. We're more like bumper cars. Sometimes we bump into each other enough that we get a good rhythm going. We might even get a thrill or two out of it. So it feels good for a while. Sometimes we even might avoid damage for a bit, but kind of like molecules, every molecule within us, life requires a whole lot of crashing into each other in order to grow and change. And whether I like it or not, my crashes are going to cost me comforts, relationships, understandings, grades, opportunities, freedoms, and everything in between. And I don't owe anyone an explanation for this, because I can't explain it for myself or anyone else. I have no answers for life, or what I'm going through, or anything thereafter. I only have my take and the reality that I'm just as human as all of you. That regardless of our similarities or differences, I'm me and you're you. And we can't force each other to understand, nor will we ever have the full story of any story. Try as hard as we might. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't love or pull together, that we shouldn't try. Because the moment we quit trying is the moment we give up, and when you give up, when you give up, the good goes out of you. And if I had to explain at this point in my recovery, I'd explain it like this. I want you to remember every lesson that you ever learned growing up. Every hardship, every heartbreak, every happy thought, all of it. I want you to think about learning to grasp your emotions, handle your hormones, figuring out who you are and what you want. Think about the first time you had to deal with death. The first time you really had self-control. Think of all your mistakes and how it felt to lose that control. Think of the roller coaster and how, even though it really doesn't end until we die, our formative years are full of some of the bumpiest peaks and loops. And now that you're thinking of all that, I want you to try to condense it. Condense every single one of those years, those events, those feelings, those milestones, and experiences into a few months, a few days, a few hours. It's overloading. It's overwhelming. And it's confusing and it hurts, and you can't make sense of it and you can't process it. And that's where I'm at. Because for me, recovery is the hardest part. And this time, recovery has actually been my breaking point. Ironically. And so people don't get about it is it's not. Recovery is not pretty. Any type of recovery. I'm not glitter and color and smiles. I'm not crazy or broken or toxic. But it's ugly. And I'm sick. I'm exhausted. And I'm lost. And I'm hurting. Because everything in my mind, in my heart, all at once, I have this overwhelming guilt. Because I'm human, just like everyone else. And we all have our battles. And I should be able to get a grip and figure that out. But I look around and I realize that no one's actually dealing well. Because behind closed doors, we all have our vices. We all have our faults. And we're not processing or healing. Because life doesn't stop. She doesn't slow down or give us the option to process anything. You just keep going and learn to deal. And I haven't been able to accept that because I feel like a glorified filing cabinet. I have so many questions, and everyone likes to throw around answers, but here's the thing. I don't need your answers. I need mine. And I don't have those yet. And I can tell you I'm going through absolute hell trying to find them. And I want the whole thing to hurry up and work out. But I also know from past experiences that I'm going to have to do this all over again and again and again and again throughout the rest of my life. And I'm trying really hard to find the silver lining in that. But I understand why loving me could drive someone mad because I've watched it happen. And I can understand why people give up. Or why they end it. Or why they turn to drugs or alcohol. Because if you're numb and you don't have to face the pain in this capacity, every waking minute. But the thing is, we still have to wake up and look ourselves in the face every single day and hate who's staring back. Regardless. And I don't want to hate her. But I don't know how to help her without burning some people and things in the process. So I think that I have to learn to accept that before I can ever move toward healing and finding me. Before I can ever help anyone else. Before I can ever help myself. I have to be able to do that. This is not a fun or easy process. And I'm selfishly indulging and finding comfort. But that's what I need right now. And the only thing I can keep thinking is that people don't hug enough. They aren't lovingly honest enough. They aren't there. Because we're all in some type of recovery and trying to find us. But regardless of how many times I've made it through the lows, this is the first time I've ever thought of me, did anything for me, tried to find me, and that's huge. But I'm so ready to give it up and just live miserably because I can't stand seeing people unhappy. I'm at war with myself and with nature, the universe, and this whole world. So, whatever greater power is out there, just know that I don't understand. And you and I have a lot to talk about. But I'm not rushing to you because I'm still figuring out what to say. But I'm also no longer living to please anyone or for anyone because I need to help myself before I can be a help to anyone else. I've run dry. So no, I'm not okay. You can quit asking now. It's just life. And at least I'm aware of that.